BiDALi. Nice to have you with us. Warm welcome to you, and we are happy to have you here. Ja, Herr BiDALi hat sich engagiert für Wanderarbeit in Katar. Ein Thema, was, denke ich, auch deswegen spannend für uns alle war, weil in Katar die Fußball-Weltmeisterschaft stattgefunden hat und die Wanderarbeiter oder verschiedene Arten von Arbeitern da unter schlechten Bedingungen arbeiten mussten, um die Stadien für die Weltmeisterschaft herzustellen. Er hat einen weiten Horizont, auch was Arbeitsbedingungen in Afrika, in verschiedenen Ländern betrifft. Und es ist einfach schön, dass er hier ist und mit uns seine Erfahrungen teilen kann. Peter Liesi ist mit dabei, er ist der Leiter von unserem kreativen Dienst in der Arbeitswelt. Er wird das Interview mit Herrn BiDALi erstmal führen, in englischer Sprache. Ich denke, wenn irgendwie Knackpunkte sind, wird er auch mal ein paar Worte übersetzen, damit alle ganz gut mitkommen. Aber wir haben gedacht, es ist natürlich auch wichtig, dass wir nicht einfach nur nach Afrika schauen oder Katar schauen, wie es da ist, sondern das Schicksal von Arbeitern in prekären Situationen haben wir in Deutschland in anderer Form, aber auch genauso bei Erntehelfern, bei Subunternehmern, Subunternehmern, die dann Pakete austragen müssen und so weiter. Und da gibt es Experten hier bei uns in Nürnberg, auch im Deutschen Gewerkschaftsbund. Da ist Marius Kangano da. Er ist bei der fairen Mobilität, so heißt dieser Arbeitsbereich, der sich vor allem mit Arbeitern in Deutschland beschäftigt, die unter schlimmen Bedingungen arbeiten müssen und ihnen versucht, den Rücken zu stärken, ihnen auch zu ihren Rechten zu verhelfen. Und so kann das große Thema von BiDALi auch bei uns in Deutschland aufschlagen und andocken. Und von daher glaube ich, dass es ein sehr spannender Abend wird, dass wir uns in den Erfahrungen von Herrn BiDALi auch selbst irgendwo widerspiegeln und auch da sehen, wo unsere eigene Verantwortung im eigenen Land liegt. Ja, jetzt habe ich eigentlich schon alles zusammengefasst. Sie können gehen oder Sie können den Kleinen zuhören, bei den Gesprächen, bei den Interviews, bei den Erfahrungen. Darauf freue ich mich, darauf bin ich gespannt und ich darf Sie aufs Podium bitten.
Ja, ein herzliches Grüß Gott, schönen guten Abend von meiner Seite. Der Dr. Mullig hat mich schon vorgestellt, mein Name ist Peter Liesi, ich leite den kirchlichen Dienst in der Arbeitswelt. Das ist, wenn man es ganz simpel sagen würde, die evangelische Arbeitsseelsorge in Bayern oder komplizierter, das sind die Facheinrichtungen der evangelischen Kirche für alle Fragen rund um Arbeit, Wirtschaft und die damit zusammenhängen sozialen Fragen. Und das Thema des heutigen Abends ist natürlich naheliegend, betrifft auch unsere Arbeit. Wir arbeiten auch unter anderem mit der fairen Mobilität, also Herrn und Organisation hier in Deutschland auch zusammen. Und ich hatte die große Ehre, letztes Jahr im Rahmen der religiösen Feier im Vorfeld der Verleihung des Menschenrechtspreises an Herrn BiDALi mitzuwirken, die Ansprache zu halten. Deswegen sind wir uns auch schon begegnet. We've met last year, I'm just talking about that. Umso schöner, dass wir das heute miteinander machen können. Im ersten werde ich mit Herrn BiDALi ein kleines Gespräch führen auf Englisch. We're going to talk about, in English, a little bit about your story and your mission and your vision. Und ich werde immer wieder versuchen, ein bisschen das, was wir in Englisch besprechen, auch zu übersetzen und übertragen. Und dann im zweiten werde ich dann mit Marius Kangano auch nochmal ein paar Dinge abklappern und dann schauen wir mal, wie sich das alles so entwickelt, ob die beiden Herren auch gegenseitig sich Fragen stellen können, ob sie Fragen haben. Und unser Zeitfenster ist so 1,5 Stunden, also wenn wir es bis 8:30 gut hinkriegen, das wäre sehr schön. Wenn Sie Lust und Laune haben, weiter mit uns zu reden, umso schöner. Okay, Malcolm, we're starting. Thank you for being here, thank you for taking your time tonight. And you're known here in the city of Nuremberg as the person who received the Human Rights Prize of the city of Nuremberg. But I don't know if everybody knows your story, and that's what I want to talk about with you a little worked in Qatar, but what happened before Qatar? What happened on the way to Qatar? How did you get to work in Qatar? What were your expectations? What were the promises you received, and how did they fulfill themselves or not? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say about my past life. So my story is not that different from any other aspiring migrant worker. Like, you are, for the most part, jobless. You are in a very bad state, be it mentally, emotionally, all those things. Your life is not really in a place that you want it to be, so you look for some place to kind of change that. And that need to migrate, that need is what motivates you to go to this Gulf countries, right? So that was, in my case, that was the main thing. It wasn't necessarily looking for financial stability. No, I was looking for a place where I could start afresh. So it's more of a mental state and everything else, but that's beside the point. So I needed to get to another country to kind of build myself back up, and the closest option was pick up. I would have preferred Europe, but it's very difficult to get to Europe or America or Australia or all these other countries. So, did I know what I was getting into? No. All I needed to know was leaving Kenya. I wanted to leave that place, So, the whole thing is you get to a recruitment agency and they ask for which job you'd like. So, it's hospitality, it's cleaning, it's security, it's driving, it's all this. So, the only job that was available at the time was security, private security, or a watchman. Depends on how you look at it. I didn't have all the information going in about maybe the recruitment fees, the costs, the charges. I didn't know they would take my passport when I arrived in that country. I didn't know they would switch the contract on me. I didn't know we would be essentially forced to work as modern-day slaves. I didn't know that. All that mattered was I was not in Kenya anymore. So that's essentially the whole process of it.
Okay, thank you. Ich übersetze kurz, also ganz kurz zusammengefasst. Malcolms Situation war nicht viel anders als die vieler Menschen in Kenia. Die Möglichkeit, irgendwo neu anzufangen, war ganz wichtig. Das Land verlassen zu können, ein neues Leben aufzubauen. Das stand im Zentrum. Und wie es so ist, es gibt Agenturen in Kenia, da geht man hin und sagt, ich möchte gerne im Mittleren Osten arbeiten, in Katar. Und dann kriegt man Angebote, was es für Optionen gibt. Da gab es nur die Option für ihn, zum Sicherheitspersonal zu gehören. Und er hatte keine Ahnung, worauf er sich einlässt. Er hatte keine Ahnung, dass ihm der Pass weggenommen wird, dass das, was im Vertrag steht, nicht so sich erfüllen wird. Also er hat von moderner Sklaverei gesprochen. Das heißt, letzten Endes in gewissem Sinne hatte er wenig mitzureden an dem, was in Katar so mit ihm passiert. Okay, well, now what you did basically, and what is part of the story that brought you here too, is that you did not, in a way, accept your fate in Qatar, but you started talking about it, you started publishing about it on social media. Apparently you also talked to others. What were your intentions? What were your expectations doing that? Or did you just do it because you said it had to be done? No. I'll just go ahead. Yeah.
So, it was December 2019, most likely, I think I remember. I had just come from my shift. I did a morning shift in the CCTV control room. So basically, we were watching this, it was a new smart city, and then we were in the control room. So I was in charge of looking at all the cameras and coordinating a couple of things in there. And I remember I had done months prior, maybe 4. A full 4 months without overtime, without even taking an off or a break. So it was just like 24/7, Monday to Monday work, like for 4 months straight. And I managed to save up, and I bought myself something nice. You know, I treated myself to something nice pair of shoes. And I come in after the shift, and I find the room has been, you know, overturned. People are trying to like make it look neat and all that. And my shoes were damaged in that process. And this is something that I worked very hard for, you know, blood, sweat, and tears, all that. And I come to find out that the whole reason for this was that they were doing an inspection, a company audit, such that, so one company wanted to hire us to subcontractors. They wanted to hire us, and in order to do that, they had to bring an inspector to look at if the accommodation was suitable. And obviously it was not, but they tried to make it look as such. And so I confronted the people, and I'm getting the point. I confronted the people, and
your managers, basically.
yeah, the managers and the people in charge of the camp, and they were like so rude. They were so like they didn't even see me as human, right? And I remember thinking, wait, I am human, and everyone else is human. Why are we being made to live like this, you know? And that was just like one aspect of it. But over the course of the years, like we had a lot of things. So it was the working hours. On the contract you sign 8 hours working time, but when you go there you work for like 15, 16 hours, right? According to the contract it says you get 1 day off. That's not the case. You are subject to wage theft. Let's say your salary maybe is like, give or take, like, let's say 500 euros. They'll give you like 250, and you're not supposed to complain. The food they give there is horrible, and the sanitary conditions are also awful and all that. And there is also racism, discrimination, there's gender-based discrimination, all those things. So I think all of it piled up until that particular day, and then I think I just like broke, and so I began that day. So I wrote to.
So just let me ask. So it was the shoes. You endured everything but the shoes, right?
The shoes.
What kind of shoes were those?
They were like white sneakers, all white.
Okay.
All white sneakers.
Special brand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get that. I think some people never get that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll translate the process. Ich habe ihn gefragt, warum er dann angefangen hat, über seine Situation, die Situation anderer, die in Katar arbeiten, zu berichten über Social Media. Und dann hat er diese Geschichte erzählt, dass er eines Tages, also er hat in so einem Kontrollraum mit Überwachungskameras gearbeitet, und dieser Kontrollraum war eines Tages renoviert, hergerichtet, wie auch immer. Und der Hintergrund war, dass seine Firma von einer anderen Firma sozusagen als Subcontractor, als Subunternehmer angeheuert werden sollte, und dazu mussten sie halt zeigen, dass alles passt. Da gibt es diese Vorgaben, nehme ich an. Und in dem Zusammenhang sind seine Schuhe beschädigt worden. Und das hat ihn auf die Palme gebracht. Alles andere hat er ertragen. Dass ihm nur die Hälfte seines Gehalts bezahlt worden ist, dass das Essen fürchterlich war, dass er statt 10 Stunden am Tag 15 gearbeitet hat, dass er 4 Monate lang keinen freien Tag hatte. Alles war erträglich, aber die Schuhe, die er sich halt von seinem Geld, seinem Mund abgespart hat, das war was ganz Besonderes, ganz Wichtiges, und so verstehe ich das. Das hat einfach gezeigt, dass das, was ihm was wert ist, denen da die Stelle nichts wert. Und da hat er sich gefragt, wie kann das sein, ich bin doch ein Mensch und ich will gehört werden, und dann hat er sich an seine Manager gewendet, aber die haben deutlich gemacht, nee, was du sagst, ist uninteressant. Okay. You can take it.
Yeah, so that's when I began I wrote to the Ministry of Labour, the Ministry of Interior, and I didn't go straight to them. I started with the hierarchy, basically. So I started with the parent company, started with the company that owns the parent company, and then I went to the Ministry of Labour, Ministry of Interior, and even the police, right? And in doing that, I was also looking at the logistics of it, the legality of it. So that involved like doing research into the labor law. And I'm not a lawyer, I haven't
before that you didn't have any idea how the labor laws in Qatar were like. You just knew what was in your contract and you believed that was fine. Nobody cared.
So I thought, okay, so if I'm supposed to make a compelling case, I need to have facts with me, right? So at the time, we had people like who are using like social media at the time, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and people were just like making like random sentences and commenting this and that. I'm not putting them down. I'm just saying that was the situation that was at the moment. So what I thought is, let me do.
So did you have sort of a community of migrant workers in Qatar with social media accounts, or was it just some basically random friends from Kenya, friends from wherever, or?
There were existing communities at the time. So what usually happens is if you have like, let's say the Gulf, right? So you have Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Oman, Kuwait, all the countries, right? So you have like Kenyans in Qatar, you have a Facebook group, you have Kenyans in Kuwait, Kenyans in Oman, you have like Nepalis in Bangladeshis, Nigerians in
so they go along ethnicities and nationalities basically.
For the most part, yes. For the most part. But they weren't really being as extensively articulate as possible, according to my view. I know it sounds like very smallish, but I felt like to gain their attention, like you'd have to like lay everything on the table with an informed analysis or informed report of everything. So I took a look at the labor laws, and
so on the accounts it was more like complaining basically, but not. That's how. Would you say that's appropriate to say? Because it was like everybody complained about the situation, but they didn't have any facts and figures and stuff.
Exactly. So that's what I did. So I wanted to have like facts and figures, and that's what I did. And I was able to kind of compile like a brief template of everything that was happening. So I would list the violation and the way it states in the labor law, like the article, the act, and everything. And I would present this to the people, to the authorities. And it was never my intention to like go public or to do that, because I wanted to handle it internally. But I saw that they weren't responding, and that's when I reached out to international organizations, and they helped me to publish like the final draft of it, and that's when everything happened.
Okay, just let me explain to this point. Also nach dieser Erfahrung, in diesem Kontrollraum mit seinem Manager, hat Mervyn dann angefangen zu sagen, okay, ich muss mich schlau machen, ich muss mich informieren, ich muss mich an die Behörden wenden, ich muss mich an das Management wenden. Und er wurde dann nicht gehört, aber in dem Prozess hat er sich schlau gemacht darüber, wie die Gesetzeslage in Katar ist, was für Rechte er tatsächlich hat, auch als Wanderarbeiter. Und er hat er war auf verschiedenen Facebook-Gruppen, sozialen Medien unterwegs. Da gibt es Gruppen, das sind dann die Kenianer in Katar und die und Inder in was weiß ich, Oman und so. Und da hat er seine Situation auch geschildert, was er so gelernt erfahren hat. Aber da kam dann wenig Resonanz, sondern er hatte nicht den Eindruck, dass die sich organisieren wollen oder so, dass das einen Effekt hat. Und zudem hat er auch festgestellt, dass die Behörden nicht reagiert haben auf ihn. Die haben ihn ignoriert. Und dann hat er eben angefangen, sich an internationale Organisationen zu wenden. Und das war das, was das sozusagen für die Behörden, sag ich mal, das fast zum Überlaufen gebracht hat. Okay? You can go on.
I think that's what going to social media. So that's
yeah, you were at the point where you said you reached out to the international, like ILO or?
No. The first one that kind of showed any interest in me was an organization called migrantrights.org. That's migrantrights.org.
You researched them, or how did you get in contact with them?
I'm looking at the legality. I don't think I can mention it now.
Okay,
yeah,
that's fine.
I don't think I can mention that. But I was put in touch with a certain individual who said, okay, so I basically walked up to this individual and said, okay, I have this issue, but I don't know who to speak to about it. And the individual referred me to one of the researchers at this organization. And this individual, when they saw like my research and my notes, they said, you know what, instead of just like keeping it for yourself, let's publish it. So you can be a writer, you can do all this. And I'm like, wait, I'm not a writer. And that individual told me, it's not about like being a writer or being an author or anything else, it's just you expressing what is actually happening. And that's how I began, basically. And I remember it was during when COVID hit, that was around like March, April, May-ish, 2020. That's when the article first premiered, and I was very shocked, to be honest, because the response was almost immediate. Because
where did you publish the article? Did you publish it under the pseudonym of
No,
Noah already? Yeah. Okay.
on their website.
On their website.
On their website, yeah.
Okay.
So our biggest complaint was the living conditions, because we used to live like 6, 8, 10, 12 people in one room. You had like mold around the walls, were like bed bugs everywhere, you know. And you know, I decided, let me do something about it. So I wrote about it. And what happened was, and this is the power of social media, by the way, I didn't have like a lot of like followers at the moment, and like less than 50, I think, at the time on Twitter, because I just like started. But the people who were retweeting it and people who were reposting it were people who had like thousands and thousands of followers. So even from the jump, like most of my supporters were actually Qataris and people, you know, from the like Europe and all this stuff. And this article got to the government, it got to the relevant people, and
Sorry, you had supporters, you had Qataris as supporters. Okay, wow.
90-ish% of the people supporting me at the time. Of that percentage, majority of them were university students, and a big number of them were from the ruling family. So it's very ironic. The same government that tried to like imprison me are their children, their nieces, their brothers and sisters, and also supporting me. So like, it was a miracle, to be honest. So yeah, like I said, article came out almost immediately. Things were changed. They reduced the number from 6, 8, 10, 12 to 3 people in one room, which was very significant. I know it might not seem so, but it is. When you come from living in a place that is very crowded and then you only 3 people, and then things have changed. The staff begins to treat you with some respect, and you know, so that's when it clicked in your mind. So you mean to tell me that all I need to do for things to change is just to write about it, you know? And that's how we are.
Okay, I'll just translate again. Also, dann ist er über einen Bekannten in Kontakt gekommen mit einer Menschenrechtsorganisation mit dem Namen Vibration Rights, und die haben ihm gesagt, er kann gerne über seine Erfahrungen, das was er gelernt hat, einen Artikel veröffentlichen auf deren Website. Den hat er dann über Twitter geteilt. Und was da passiert ist, ist ganz erstaunlich. Also er hat gesagt, er hatte 50 Follower auf Twitter. Aber dieser Artikel hat eingeschlagen, und zwar wurde er vor allem auch geteilt, zu 90% der Sachen von Kataris, also Studenten, Studentinnen in Katar, die meisten Mitglieder der herrschenden Familien. Und das hat Wirkung gezeigt, und zwar sofort. Also er hat einen Artikel geschrieben über die Wohnsituation, 6 bis 8 Personen im Zimmer, Schimmel an den Wänden, ja, Bettwanzen überall. Und als der Artikel raus war, dann ging es relativ schnell, dann wurde die Zahl der Leute in Zimmer von 8 auf 3 reduziert, und dann hat er festgestellt, okay, so funktioniert es also, man muss es öffentlich machen und dann passiert auch was. Okay. That's it. For the most part. But that sounds like a fairy tale, but it wasn't a fairy tale in the end. So what happened then?
Yeah. So prison, basically.
Prison.
Yeah, prison. So I did it for about like a year, because I was like one of the.
You published for a year.
Oh yeah, published for a year. I was in one of those like sweet spots, like as a correspondent, like I was like in the mix. I was like everywhere. So how would I get my stories? When I go to work, like we're with the same people in the bus. At work, we'll be with the same people. Like any issue that they would have, like I would listen to. And they didn't even know like I was the one writing. So I was like anonymous like for the whole time. Like no one knew for the whole year. No one knew. But as people like talk, like we say, if maybe like we stole some piece of land so that we could be able to afford money for the agent fees, like I would know. If maybe someone discriminated against you like racially, like I would know. If they did not pay your salary for the month, like I would know, because also I would be there. So I never had a shortage of violations to write about or to speak about. So I did that successfully for about a year, and each time I would write about something, it would more or less have an impact, so things would change. And things were looking up, things were pretty good. But I think 1 year to the day, 1 year exactly, I think, I was arrested by the State Security Bureau. They managed to like hack my phone, something of the sort. I'm not really sure how they did it, but they did. And I was taken into custody, and it wasn't like any regular prison or anything of the sort. Like it was like the King's Guard. It was a very like solitary confinement. It was like a black site. It was scary, to be honest. But yeah, I didn't regret anything. I went to prison and I did about a month or so. But in the back, I didn't know like what campaign for my release. So at the end, I managed to get out due to the same things that I had.
Was there anything that sort of triggered your imprisonment? Because I mean, you wrote for a year basically, and I'm just kind of wondering, okay, you could do this for a year, but then suddenly, you know, the state got after you.
Yeah. I wrote an article about the king's mother, who was involved in some illegal violations. Yeah, I probably should not have done that, but you know.
So it got too close, right?
Yeah,
It got too close. Okay.
probably should not have done that, but you know, did what I did. So in Qatar, like or most of the Gulf countries, you can get away with pretty much anything as long as you don't mention or you don't touch on the ruling figures, because they don't have like a president or prime minister or that. They have, it's a monarchy, they have a king, queen, and council minister. So I did not fully understand it, but at the same time, I'm glad that I did not, because if I did, it would have tainted my view on the whole topic. So I'm just glad I approached it as a clueless individual. It wasn't bravery, to be honest, it was foolishness, and I'm glad that I operated that way, because I was able to speak the truth of what was happening. I had evidence, and I had, you know, like I said, I was working with the CCTV and video evidence of what was happening. And yeah, I wrote an article and I published it. Not less than a month later, I was in prison. But
Thank you. Also, nachdem Malcolm eben erlebt hat, dass es Wirkung zeigt, wenn er was veröffentlicht, hat er es als seine Aufgabe angesehen, auch die Geschichten anderer zu erzählen. Und die lagen auf der Straße, also im Bus, wenn ein Gespräch hat, er hat Gespräche mitgehört, mit anderen geredet und so weiter. Keiner wusste, dass er derjenige war, so Noah war, der diese Geschichten veröffentlicht hat. Und aufgrund dessen haben sich auch Situationen wirklich zum Positiven gewandelt, wie er es auch selber erlebt hat. Und er hat gedacht, das geht so weiter, aber dann gab es eben diese eine Geschichte und die ging über Rechtsverletzungen, die die Mutter des Königs begangen hat, also arbeitsrechtliche Verletzungen. Und das war halt zu nah am Königshaus. Und dann hat der Geheimdienst zugeschlagen, hat sein Telefon gehackt und auf der Basis dessen wurde er verhaftet. Wobei er nie den Anklagegrund, das hat er jetzt nicht erzählt, das erzähle ich jetzt kurz, weil ich das weiß, den Anklagegrund erfahren hat. Er wurde einfach in ein Gefängnis gesteckt, ein besonderes Gefängnis, glaube ich, persönliches Gefängnis vom König, so habe ich es verstanden. Isolationshaft, 1 Monat in der Dunkelheit. Es war schlimm, aber er hat gesagt, er bereut es nicht. And how did you get out of prison?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, because for that type of offense, like you normally don't get out. So the official charge was espionage.
Okay. they thought there was some organization behind that that wanted to sort of harm the Qatar state.
Yes, and my association with Amnesty and Human Rights Watch did not help at all.
Okay.
Yeah. Long story short, they said because Amnesty receives funds from basically their enemies, like I was actually a state-funded actor against Qatar, so it was a whole thing. But what helped was the World Cup, because everyone was looking at Qatar. There was media, there was human rights organizations, there was everything else. So when you kind of like play it out over the long term, because the World Cup was about 7-8 months away, I think, and with each increasing day, the pressure to release me would also increase. We had ambassadors, we had members of the European Parliament, we had media, everyone was calling for my release. So the more they kept me, the more it looked bad than me. So they kind of had to let it go. But if it happened at any other time, like I probably would not be so ready. So I think that is what happened at the time.
Okay. Also er hat noch erklärt, weswegen er angeblich im Gefängnis gewesen wäre, und zwar, dass er Spionage betrieben hätte. Das war sozusagen der Anklagepunkt, weil niemand geglaubt hat, dass ein Kenianer wie er einfach solche tollen Artikel schreiben kann. Da musste irgendwie eine Organisation dahinter stecken, und er hat ja auch Kontakte zur Amnesty und so weiter gehabt, zur Amnesty-Bildung, finanziert auch von Geldgebern, die Katar kritisch gegenüberstehen. Also das haben sie halt so konstruiert. Und ich habe auch gefragt, weswegen er denn aus dem Gefängnis entlassen wurde. Er hat gesagt, ja, die Weltmeisterschaft hat tatsächlich geholfen, weil natürlich Katar immer mehr in den medialen Fokus gerückt ist, in den diplomatischen Fokus gerückt ist. Und jeder Tag, wo er länger im Gefängnis gewesen wäre, hätte sozusagen das öffentliche Image Katars beschädigen können. Und dann war es einfach für den katarischen Staat, sage ich mal, vernünftige Entscheidung, ihn aus dem Gefängnis zu entlassen. Und für ihn war es ein großes Glück in einer anderen Situation, wo Katar nicht so im Mittelpunkt der Öffentlichkeit gestanden